Hey y'all! Welcome back to my channel, Scotty Cherie Reads. Today we're going to be going over what I read the previous month of June, which was Pride Month. So let's just get right into it. As I'm sure you can tell from the thumbnail, it was pretty much a Heartstopper June, and I had so much fun with reading this graphic novel. So rewind a little bit. I'm gonna link my June TBR up top, which is where I went through my shelves behind me and just kind of pulled out a lot of queer-focused books or queer authors that have written LGBTQIA+ books, and I just kind of mood read throughout the month to see what I wanted to read for Pride Month. I didn't ultimately read as many as I would have liked, and we'll get to that in a little bit, but I definitely wanted to start with Heartstopper. So I have read this series, well, not all the way through. I think I read the first 4 volumes a year or so ago, and then the 5th one came out, I bought it right away, and then it just sat on my shelves for a while. So I decided to reread all of them. So I read Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4, and Volume 5. And on top of that, I also read the novella this winter, and I read the novel Solitaire. A quick synopsis about Heartstopper, if you don't know. I feel like everyone and their mother knows what Heartstopper is, especially because of the Netflix adaptation TV series that people really like. I have not watched it yet, so let me know in the comments below if it's something that I should watch. I just haven't got around to it yet, but I probably will at some point. Anyway, if you don't know, Heartstopper is a super wholesome graphic novel that focuses on our main characters, Nick and Charlie, and ultimately they have feelings for each other and they navigate this relationship. Charlie, from the beginning of this graphic novel, has come out that he is gay. However, Nick has not, and for the first volume or so, it kind of grapples with him coming to terms with understanding his sexuality. Ultimately, they have a relationship, and the rest of the volumes explore what it's like for them in this relationship. It does have some serious moments. I would look up the trigger warnings. As you know on my channel, I don't like to say them explicitly, but it's easy enough for you to be able to find them. There are some that are in here, so I would look those up if you're more of a sensitive reader or really take care of your mental health before going in, which I think everyone should. But it's never too heavy, and I think that the trauma and points of trauma are very well discussed in this graphic novel. I think that Alice Oseman does a really good job of having hard-hitting points in there, but ultimately turning it back around and still leaving it on a positive note for the most part. I love these two. This is a 5-star series for me. It's something that I feel like I will continue to read over and over again. I'm very excited for the 6th volume, which I think is the final volume. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe that it was supposed to end on the 5th, but then she extended it to the 6th. We'll see. I think there's one more, and I'm very excited to see when that comes out. I'll put it down below if I can look online and see when the anticipated release date is, but I will be picking that up right away when it comes out, and this is just gonna be a reread for me forever. To get into a couple of the other ones, so this is a whole universe, and it's taking place in, I think, Charlie's year 10 of high school, and it continues through his second year or year 11. However, there are a couple stories that I read, which is This Winter, which is a novella that both of these take place in between volumes 4 and 5. So volume 4 takes the biggest chunk of time in the story. I'll throw up a graphic here so you can see what I mean, but it takes up almost a year, whereas the other ones are just several months or a summer that goes over it. So chapter 4, a lot of stuff happens. This is probably the hardest hitting graphic novel volume in the series. But as I said, there's some events that happen and there's time in between to have these two stories. So This Winter, like I said, it's just a novella that focuses around Christmas during that time where some heavy hitting things are happening, and there is a main character named Tori who actually, her book is Solitaire, and Tori is Charlie's older sister who plays a role in the series. This is her novel that's specifically about her and formulating her relationship with someone else and her sexuality. Unfortunately, I didn't really like this book. I think this is Alice Oseman's debut, and you can very much tell, I'm glad that I read it because it does fill in some questions from the Heartstopper series, but I don't know. I think the writing was just elementary and just a little weak. And I think that Alice Oseman was pretty young when she wrote this. So, I mean, I gave it... Hold on, let me see what my rating actually was. 1 second. Oh. Okay, so I actually gave it a 1 star. So, I mean, I am glad that I read it personally to draw my own conclusions, but I don't think that you need to read this in order to continue through the series at all. I just want to read everything that Alice Oseman writes. There's not a bunch. I think I have Radio Silence, I Was Born for This, Loveless, and then Nick and Charlie are the only ones that I have left. So they're really quick reads and I want to read through everything and be able to like rank them, and maybe that'll be in a future video. But yeah, this was not my favorite. It was a 1 star. Yeah, that's all I'll say about it. This winter was super cute. I'm glad that I read it. I'll probably read it again during the holiday season. But yeah. Pretty vague, but if you're in for a wholesome, sweet, queer graphic novel, I think Heartstopper is a great place to start. Let's move to the next read. So the next thing I jumped into was continuing my reread of the Wayward Children series. I read through the first 4 books, which are here, and I'm vlogging them. However, with a lot of the travel that's going on with me this summer, we talked about how I went on a cruise and how I went to Montana to see my in-laws, and then my brother actually got married at the beginning of July. So I was in Breckenridge for that and was gone for a week and didn't get much reading done. And preparing for that in June, it was just a lot. So that vlog is still coming. I'm almost there. It should be up at the latest the beginning of August. So look out for that one. I'm not going to say much here because all of my thoughts will be in that vlog. So aside from the Wayward Children series, I listened to an audiobook, which I picked up because it just happened to pop into my Libby, which was perfect for Pride Month, which is Coming Home by Brittany Griner. I really love this book. If you get it, I would listen to the audiobook. I think the audiobook was great. She doesn't narrate it. She only narrates like the author's notes and like the first chapter or whatever, but the narration was very good. This story was really interesting. I didn't know a lot about the specifics of what happened with Brittany Griner and why she was locked up in the Russian prison system. It goes into detail from her accounts of what that experience was like. I think it was interesting to know how little of amount of marijuana she actually had on her and how they just tried to use her pretty much as a pawn between the battle between US and Russia. I'm just glad that she ultimately got out. Like, that situation it was starting to get pretty bleak. I mean, the whole situation is bleak, but I'm just very lucky that she was able to get out, and now she's being an activist of other people who are imprisoned for like just huge crimes and in these terrible situations, like being held hostage basically. And I love that she has dedicated a lot of her life to speak out about those things, and it's something that I want and need to look more into because I'm not very familiar with that. I think the Brittany Griner case like opened up my eyes to a lot of this stuff. So if you have any other books or any references and stuff to this type of thing, like Americans who are wrongfully imprisoned in other countries and held hostage, or just being held as a pawn pretty much for like a tiny break of the law, you know, and their punishment is just so severe. I think that's really interesting. So if you have any recommendations for books or movies or documentaries or something, leave them in the comments down below. And if you're interested in that, definitely pick up Coming Home by Brittany Griner. All right, and the final book that I read for the month of June was Little Rot by Akwaeke Emezi, which was one of my most anticipated, if like not the most anticipated novel that released this year. I love Akwaeke Emezi. I like to go into Akwaeke Emezi's books not knowing much at all. I only read the inside flap and that's it. So that's all I'm going to do for you guys, and I'll explain a little bit of my feelings afterwards, but let me just read a little bit of the synopsis for you. It says, one weekend, the elite underbelly of a Nigerian city, a party that goes awry, a tangled web of sex and lies and corruption that leaves no one unscathed. Ama and Kalu are a longtime couple who have just split. When Kalu, reeling from the breakup, visits an exclusive sex party hosted by his best friend Ahmed, he makes a decision that will plunge them all into chaos, brutally and suddenly upending their lives. Ola and Soraya, two Nigerian sex workers visiting from Kuala Lumpur, collide into the scene just as everything goes to hell. Sucked into the city's corrupt and glittering underworld, they're all looking for a way out, fueled by a desperate need to escape the dangerous threat that looms over them. So it's a thriller that happens in roughly 36 hours. There's a bunch of time jumps, and there's time jumps from different characters' perspectives. I believe almost every character in here, like there's probably like 5 or 6 different perspectives in this book, and it's pretty short. It just speaks to how exceptional Akwaeke Emezi is with writing. Okay, going into trigger warnings, definitely look up trigger warnings before going into this book, as in any Emezi book, to be honest. Their writing is very brutal. Everything is written on page. You can't like not see it. There's no room for questioning. Like, it is there and very raw. So I know this book's not going to be for everyone, but if you can handle it, pick this up. Pick anything up by Emezi. This is a 5-star read. If you've read it, hit me up in the comments below. No spoilers though. Hide them or put some spaces, or hit me up on Instagram. It's the same thing. Scotty Cherie Reads. I just could talk about Emezi books all day, every day. So it was a great end to the month. Little Rot, pick it up. It was as good, if not better, than I expected. So I did want to mention that I didn't really get around to as many books. Like I said, I have the June TBR up here if you want to check it out. And there were so many books that I wanted to get to, but wasn't really able to. Another thing is I did pick up A Little Life and started reading it. However, I ultimately put it down, not because I wasn't enjoying it, but because I didn't feel like it was a good book to read during Pride Month. I had heard some things like conflicting information about A Little Life, but my naive ass didn't know that Hanya Yanagihara was a woman. And I don't believe that she identifies as queer either. So I just felt weird about that and didn't feel like that was a good representation. So I put it down and picked up Little Rot instead. And I'm so glad that I did that. But I will ultimately get to A Little Life. Just in case people saw my Goodreads that I did pick it up, or on sprints and stuff saw that I was reading it. I ultimately put it down and I'll pick it up in the future. However, I read queer all year long. It's not just for June, obviously. So if you look at my June TBR and you see any novels that I have, or just books in general that I have that are queer, that are some of your favorites, let me know in the comments below so I can pick those up in the near future, because like I said, I'm reading them all year long anyway. Other than that, that's it. That's all. As always, if you like what you saw, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out. And I will see you in the next couple days for my next video, which should be, spoiler alert, the big mid-year book freakout tag. So look out for that one, and I'll talk to you guys in the comments. Until then, bye.